You take a week off and a lot can happen. We actually do have a lot to get into today here on the OG. Hayes Permar sitting in for Joe Ovius.
We had a lot of Kane stuff. You're saying we have a lot in general?
Hey, we have a full-on Canes roster moves.
Okay.
That were good.
Multiple
maybe,
moves.
Maybe.
Yep.
We have an ACC detail update because as I talk to my
two?
people in the
That's
ACC,
your number two on a lot of things going on. All right, I'm skeptical.
And then my mind is blown by a certain really famous actor from a really famous show, and I'm still trying to process this.
This is not NC State knocked off a number one team in football. UNC lost to D2. This is not a lot going on. You're stretching it to say a lot going on.
It's 7-7.
I feel like you make fun of Ovius for saying we got a lot to talk about. But you got me. You got me. Time filler here, baby. Time eater.
Hayes Permar. We are here back at the Eford Studios. Thanks to our friends at Empire Properties, Empire Eats. I'm enjoying my Morning Times coffee right now. Go check them out all times. Copiers Plus. Have you hit up Copiers Plus yet for your Rialto needs? I feel like you could use a little organization. Not to generalize your general vibe and modus operandi, but
there's probably not a OG sponsor that I have not at least talked to and figured out exactly where they fit in my life. So not all of them are on the roster,
it's fair.
But I've talked to all of them about what they could do for me and what I might need. So yes, we're assessing that.
Copiers-plus.com if you need to figure out your print needs. Print tickets, maybe? I don't know. Maybe. I don't know if we're still doing that.
Yeah.
It's 2025, Giglio.
We don't.
But tax information, if you're a small business like us, it really does come in super handy. So hit them up. It's copiers-plus.com. All right, I mentioned the Carolina Hurricanes. So while we were gone, we took last week off. Okay. Carolina Hurricanes made multiple moves. So let's start at the top. They signed Nikolaj Ehlers from the Winnipeg Jets. He is a left wing. He was, by most accounts or all accounts, the top prize still left on the free agency board.
Can I tell you what, casual fan, how I was reading things?
Okay.
I kept hearing going into free agency, we got more money to spend than ever. We might be in the best position of we have our top contracts locked down. The Slavens and the Ahos aren't going anywhere for a while. We've got money. The cap is going up. But then I was also hearing there's not a lot on the aisles to shop for right now.
Correct.
And
that's a fair assessment.
So we had good money, but there weren't necessarily good products right now. That was casual Canes fans understanding going into free agency. So that sets the stage for.
So Ehlers, they end up signing him for 6 years at an average of $8.5 million per year. Nice deal for him, certainly. And they were happy about this because I think there's some scarring there, right? Like you have the Jake Gensel, where you're like, man, what happened with that guy? He wanted to sign for less tax money, whatever it was, right? Then you have the whole l'affaire de Rantanen, and you're like, what happened there, right? Oh, that guy, his fiance,
his girlfriend didn't want to live in Raleigh.
There's nowhere to shop in Raleigh. Whatever the narrative becomes, I think on the surface, going into free agency, signing a player for a long-term deal who can help your team, that's a good thing.
That part gets a thumbs up from you.
I don't think it's an exorbitant amount either. 8.5 at this rate. He's 29 years old. Again, not a bad thing. The way that he plays, the way that he was described as a fast player, a skilled player, even one of the Winnipeg writers who was on the call was like, this feels like a lot like you're replacing Necas. Marty Necas, a fast player, a skilled player. All good things. I'm so far, I'm like, okay. 6 foot, 172 pounds. Again, I mentioned that he's 29 years old. He is Danish. Okay. Did the Hurricanes have any players from Denmark? Yes, they do. They're goalie. And to quote Ehlers, I love that guy. Okay. These are all good things. I like what we're talking about so far. One other thing that I felt like was a positive step for the Hurricanes as a franchise. Ehlers says, I talked to Rod. Going back to the Rantanen deal, I always thought it was odd that Rantanen never talked to Aho before the deal.
Right.
To ever get like the lay of the land.
Yep.
And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, if I had someone who,
that's the first person you'd call.
Yeah.
I got a buddy.
I have a friend on the team.
Yeah. Let me get the lowdown of like, what's the locker room like? What's the city like? What's the coach like? What's the team like? That they treat you right? Yeah. All those things that matter that we don't always hear about, the little things.
So I like all of this so far. And he said, I talked to Rod. We have the same vision about how things are going to go. Now, here's the part that I don't exactly love. Ehlers is a left wing. Okay. We go through the depth chart here. Yep. They just signed Taylor Hall to a deal, plays on the left side. Obviously, they have Svech, plays on the left side. So you signed a guy in your top 6 is what you did. Their most pressing need was a second center. Unless I'm reading the room wrong here, they did not identify a second center, and probably there wasn't one available.
Have not heard of one yet.
So there's probably still a deal to be made by the Carolina Hurricanes, which I think
that's come through trade, right?
Correct.
There's nobody just sitting out there.
Correct. Now, if you're saying they're going to trade Svech to get a number 2 or number 1 center, and then Ehlers plays on the top line with cool. I'm in. Done. Great move. But I look at this and I go, you guys are excited. You're getting getting the popsicles out here. You're feeling a certain kind of way about this move as a big splash. His career high is 64 points. He's never scored 30 goals in a season. He's been in the NHL for 10 years. He has 9 goals in 45 career playoff games. The one thing the Hurricanes need
playoff goals
are guys who can finish in the playoffs. Now, in his defense, he had 5 goals in 8 games this year. So more than half of his playoff production of his entire career came this year for the Winnipeg Jets. By the way, I know we don't pay attention to the other side of the world. They were actually the President's Cup winners this year, President's Trophy winners. Okay. So, i.e., the best team in the regular season. So he was a good player, a top 6 player on a good team, on a really good team. Ultimately, though, I'm not sure Canes plus Ehlers equals Cup.
All right, let me ask you a couple questions probing here.
Yeah.
One, would it be possible for, if I get it right, we play 4 lines, 3 guys on each line.
Correct.
Then 3 defensive pairings.
Yes.
2 each. That's a total.
Now, this is their big major move. No, there's some other moves.
We were going to talk about other ones.
Yeah.
Yes. So, I mean, what's the problem? If we had 25 goals from each one of the 12 guys in the top 4 lines, what's the problem? That seems like enough goals. That's all we need from it is 25 goals. No.
It's a fascinating contrast, right? Because you had Edmonton in the final with the 2 best players in the NHL, heavy, but really nothing else. And then you have the Canes, who basically what they've done, but in my opinion, with this addition, we've gone back to let's just make the whole plan out of second and third liners. And again, we don't have evidence that wins you the Stanley Cup.
Yeah. All right, let me ask you a more serious question. Who does this knock out of the top 4 line? Like who does he demote? And is he like,
the way I see it right now, you
analytics would call this almost like a wins over replacement. Is he coming in better than is everyone moving down a peg on the like we see it in the 2C? Oh, great. If we could slot everybody one lower, then we're good. If where does he fit and who does he bump down?
So if you take their top 12, now you have Kasperi Kotkaniemi, who is nominally their second center, who was scratched for their last playoff game. I don't know if he goes back into the lineup or not. They need to figure that out, whether he's going to be on the roster or not.
He's the one in Kane's La La Land. You get all the players you don't like, you trade and get rid of and get even better things back for them, And so like he's the king of like, man, if we could trade KK and get a second center, a KK and a draft pick from 10 years from now and get a center. Wow, let's do that.
I do think this moves Blake down, Jackson Blake down, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, he played very well for them mostly all year as a top 6 guy, but in the playoffs, he was moved out of the top 6. He's a right side winger. But I think they improved their team.
But just not to the level that
almost feels like, he's talking about on the conference call about how he's friends with Nino Niederreiter. We all have fond memories of Sarah Sivian saying, give me fuel, give me fire, give me Nino Niederreiter. And he would score 20 whatever goals for the Hurricanes and be a perfectly acceptable player. I wouldn't adjust my expectations for much more than that, though.
All right.
And the one defense of his statistics, I think when he said we have the same vision, we have how things are going to go, I suspect they will use him more on the power play than Winnipeg did. And if you ask any NHL player, the bulk of your points, when you get to that point per game up into that 100-point range,
you need to be on the
has to be on power play. It has to be power play time. His career high in power play goals is 7 back in 2018. So I could see his numbers going up with more power play time, but you are basically talking about a 60-point scorer.
Can I give you a hot take with like zero basis in it? But
Yeah.
This coming from a guy who doesn't know hockey. I'm a Canes fan. I've learned some hockey, but I know it through the lens of watching the Canes. But there will be like 25% of like hockey bros will be out here and they will agree with me on this. And it's a take based on nothing. Then I just hear it way too much. I think right-handed and left-handed wingers is overrated. I'm not saying it's a non-factor. I'm saying it's overrated. I'm saying give me good players out there and we'll figure it out, even if they're right-handed playing on the left side.
Well,
I don't care.
Perfect seg, because I agree with you. You can play on your offside as a forward. Defenseman, it comes a little bit more difficult. You're trying to keep the puck in the zone. It's easier to have your stick closer to the wall, right? Okay. These are things we learned in the playoffs. Well, we're going to have to relearn them because
we picked up
the second major deal that the Hurricanes made in the week that we were gone was they traded for Keandre Miller from the Rangers. Now, Miller's 25 years old. Miller is a
young dude,
hoss,
big dude,
also a hoss,
big dude.
And when teams talk about soft, the Canes are soft. The Canes, the Canes don't have this. No. So you add Miller now to your group, and I think the number one takeaway most fans will feel a certain way about. Yes, Miller's a young guy, big guy, tough guy, can be a skilled guy. I think these are all things that will improve their defense. So I'm more in favor of this move than I am the splashier move of Ehlers. Okay. But I think the real win for most Hurricanes fans, and you talk about the bros or whoever, they now no longer have Dmitry Orlov or Brent Burns.
Yes.
So the two biggest scapegoats from last year are now officially gone.
And Scott Morrow, who like he was a guy put in a little bit over his head, but he had like 2 bad games in the playoffs, and Canes fans, casual Canes, it's like, get him out of here. So moving him, I think, appeases the.
You need to refer to him by his official name, which is either fucking Scott Morrow or poor Scott Morrow. He was part of the deal to get Miller to the Rangers. So I like the move by Eric Tulsky in the front office to use an asset that otherwise probably would have been more of an extra piece out there next season rather than a main piece of the equation. So I love the addition of Miller. I do think not bringing Burns back, who I know Rod Brindamore wanted to bring back on a and use in a different role.
You bring him back, aren't you basically signing up to start him every game or play him every game because you don't want to be the person that ends his streak? I feel like that became a tough thing too. Of like, we can't even give you a day of rest.
Gosh, the streak is such a non-factor
too.
Like
the worst.
Silly. So now you bring in Miller. You mentioned right side, left side. He is a left-sided, left-handed defenseman. Do you play him with Slavin? Do you anchor him on the second line with Nikishin? Do you play Nikishin, also a lefty, with Slavin? Do you put Miller and Chatfield together? I suspect they bring Chatfield up, who is a right-handed defenseman playing with Slavin. You'll see Miller with the Ruski, would be my guess, and you don't touch the Ghost Walker, Gostisbehere, and Walker. So I love the Miller addition. I think one of the main points I tried to make with Ron Brindamore in our off-season protocols, off-season conversation, exit interview, I thought the Hurricanes defense took a step back last year. I think that was significant. I think you saw that. Even I know the injuries exacerbated that, but even before the injuries in the playoffs, I thought the defense used to be the strength of this team. Last season, it was not. I think that forward depth that you had kind of mentioned, getting, 6 or 7 guys who can score 20 goals.
We're good.
So I thought the Miller move, I was higher on the Miller move than I was the Ehlers move. Now, the other move they made, which at first I interpreted as, okay, you're just doing this to make it seem like you're doing something, even though really you're just not doing something. That was Logan Stankoven and the long-term contract that they signed him to. And at first I'm looking at this going, you're making a big deal as if you did something here. Stankoven did have a year left on his contract. But then I started thinking about it. Remember when Andrei Svechnikov got into that same predicament? Stankoven, by the way, is 22 years old, which is kind of crazy.
And he's like fastly rising up the fan favorite rankings.
Absolutely. Because of the Rantanen deal and the way that it worked out. Yep. And he quickly embraced the team and the locker room and the ethos of the Rod system, if you will. When they first re-signed him, I'm thinking to myself, wait a second, he's not a restricted free agent. It felt like they were doing it as window dressing. Like, oh no, look, we've re-signed this guy to an 8-year deal. Like, well, look at what we did.
Right.
To your point about having all this money. It was almost like, huh. However, when I took an extra second to think about it, when Svechnikov got into the same situation in his contract, he had a dog shit year because he kept thinking about, where's my extension? What am I going to do? How am I supposed to? And it just became this whole thing. Natchez was in a similar situation where they had him, and it was like thinking about his contract and what are they going to do with him long term and all this other. You don't want to put a young player in that situation. So I applaud what they did with Stankoven to get the long-term deal with a guy who is going to be a piece of your franchise now for the next 6-7 years.
Yeah.
And if you think about it and you look at it, Tom Dundon once famously told us in the parking lot before the outdoor series,
Sure.
window's going to be open for a long time. Well, as we speak right here, you got Svech 25, Aho still only 28, Jarvis 23, Stankoven 22, Ehlers 29, Roslovic right now, who I have slotted as their second center, 28. And then Blake 22, Miller 25. Obviously Nikishin still a baby. And then your defensemen are all at that 30-year-old. The rest of your defensemen are all at that 30, 31-year-old mark. So overall, I do think the Hurricanes improve their team. I'm still waiting and hoping there's one more move, though, for that second center.
All right. Would their moves be good enough to say they're better than anybody but the Florida Panthers right now?
But weren't they?
No, that's a fair question.
Like,
have they closed the gap on the Florida Panthers? I mean, but at this time, that's who you're looking at, right?
Yeah.
If you're trying to get better, you're not really worried about the Boston Bruins. You're half step or a step ahead of most other teams in the East, right? In terms of your roster construction.
I will say getting Ehlers and preventing him from going to Washington, who was the other team that he was considering. I like that. I do like that.
Yep.
And again, they didn't overpay for him. I'm not like sitting here like saying, oh man, this guy stinks. This is terrible. I'm just saying I'm not as excited about that move as maybe some other people were last week when the news broke.
That's fair. Do you think the second center still comes in the offseason, or it's wait to see who's selling during the season and try and pick somebody off a team that's giving up?
I think they have enough extra parts that you can move some people in. I would seriously consider trading Svechnikov at this point. And I think that's probably your best path home. You have a Kotkaniemi Svechnikov combo platter. You have extra first round picks if necessary. I think that's the play. And as we talked about after that exit interview, I thought Rod Brind'Amour was really frustrated last year about the number of different times during the season and off season where he had to redo the team on the fly. And I think it's more important this year to have your roster and feel better about where you are. Major parts, at least, too. I don't want to see another, let's go get Jake Ensel. Let's go get Mikko Rantanen. I'd rather you get a Max Pacioretty at the deadline, a veteran scorer to, punch up your lineup as opposed to trying to get some major piece.
Sure.
I would prefer that they made that major move in the offseason. Who knows if it works that way, though? I don't know.
All right, a quick take here. You guys have had Tulsky on. He's obviously, he is who he is. He talks like an intelligent person who reads a lot of books, you know? But
he is a person who got into Harvard the hard way.
Yes. All right.
As I like to say.
And let's see, I'm trying to make an analogy here. As I sit here, a sweaty mess and not very presentable myself, right? Yeah. I've said this for a couple of years. The city of Raleigh is a growing city. I think we've had great leadership the past few years, going back to Mayor Charles Meeker, Mayor Nancy McFarland, Marianne Baldwin, and now Janet Cowell. And I think they are smart people who make good decisions. But I'm like, just once, couldn't we have a smart people who makes decisions who also is like, has swagger and charm, you know what I mean? Who just walks out and like, Raleigh's on the rise, get on the, and if you want one thing, you want substance over style, right? You will take substance. Can we just get I watch these videos with Tulsky pulling off the deals. And he's just got the curly hair. And it's very
slightly
pale,
awkward.
And he's sweating. And he just he doesn't feel like, hey, bro, you ready to play for the Canes and kick some ass? It's like, hey, man, we've been talking here and we're very excited about you. I am asking for too much. And again, I will always take the substance. And I am Team Tulsky. And I love the substance he's been bringing to the Canes in the Rod Brind'Amour era. But just every now and then, I just want a good looking dude in a tight suit calling up the next
you want Doug Worf out there.
Of Canes player being like, hey, buddy, you ready to come kick some ass with us? And they bleep it out, like they do with the Rod Brind'Amour. That's as a fan, I want it all, and I want my GM to also be just cutting a line through people with his suits and his look. And Tulski, he looks like a creative genius, which I'll take. Just every now and then, I just want somebody with some swagger on these videos.
Hey, look at that. We just took a hockey break. Happy Inhale has your health break, your lunch break, your good food break.
Speaking of good people with swagger, like we need to have Tulski make the decisions, and then Tyler Hellickson should be on the video as our body double GM.
Your avatar.
Like calling people like, hey, man, you want to come play for the Canes, man? Like that's
pull away in the Jeep.
We need
or the Bronco, whatever he's driving these days.
Hellickson could be the Tulski body double for making the call to the players. Yes.
Do yourself a favor, download the Happy Inhale app. Use our promo code OG25. Save 25% on your initial order. Take a screen grab it. Send it to me, giglio.joe@gmail.com. You can win a black card. I've got 3 left. 3. So they're going fast. Kind of like the tickets at the Rialto for the Sports Podcast Festival. Thanks to our friends at Inovana here. We have a little housekeeping. Sports Podcast Festival is coming up week 0, August. The link is below. Go get your tickets. We have a deal. Right? SPF 20?
Yep.
25?
25.
25? 25. 25. Look at me over here, not knowing my own promos. But hit up the link or go to therialto.com. What else you got going on at the Rialto this summer, Hayes?
A lot of classic movies. Superman is coming out this week. Everyone's talking Superman. It's all Superman. So, of course, we're playing Batman, The Dark Knight. Many people thought the greatest Batman. Some people say the greatest superhero movie of all time. So, come catch The Dark Knight this week. Field of Dreams next week. It's all going on at the Rialto.
I don't know what Inovana is doing because Ovius is out of the country. They're probably just there. Yeah, they're probably wistfully looking in the windows like soon. But for all of your housekeeping needs, hit them out for greencleaninginovana.com. We will be tomorrow. We have a very special live edition tomorrow. I know I've already confused Hayes.
Yes, I'm terribly confused.
And now I'll just confuse everyone else. So our schedule this week, we're having a meeting. Please don't touch anybody.
Come on. Let me press the buttons.
Hold on.
He's got my number. Put the labels on these things, obvious.
Don't.
I really want to. Okay, I'm not.
We're having a meeting tomorrow. So our schedule this week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. The Tuesday is your Butcher's Market live. That is our live show. 2:00 at Hayes' home base.
That is right. You darn Skippy.
2 Roosters
on Person Street.
We will be there at.
Actually, technically, I think it's on Franklin Street, but we'll have to go look at that.
We will be there at 2:00. We have a flavor this month. It is.
Congratulations. Very cool, by the way.
Peanut butter fudge. And I was looking at the menu. It says salty peanut butter fudge, salty because I can be salty. Ovius can be a little bit salty. I figured this out, and I'm not trying to get myself in trouble with Jared, but I guess he can't use Reese's as a name.
Yes, you can't use.
Okay, I just want to explain this to you. It is peanut butter ice cream with Reese's peanut butter cups, and then the Ripple, as you and I have talked about, all Mount Rushmore flavors have a Ripple. Our Ripple is a chocolate. It's like a fudge that does have a little bit of salt in it. So, and they made it a cake. Did you see the cake?
Oh, you have a cake?
They made it the cake with all of the cups on top.
That'll be good. I'm going to try it live tomorrow. I've not tried it. Honestly, I was there last night. I ate dinner at Standard, and I was like, you know what? I may need to try the peanut butter flavor so I could talk about it.
But then you're like, no, I want the live.
And then I was like, no, you know what? I'm going to do it live. And that's when I was texting you, very confused about it. And I need some help with this. Did Ovius know about the day changed?
No.
Does he know? Because I feel like I'm going to get blamed for this somehow.
Probably.
I feel like being guest, I just want to know.
No, I think he did because it was on a text with Jared.
Okay.
So
we're cool for doing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
We are. And we make the rules.
I know. I just feel like I get blamed as like guest guy coming in here. If things are different, it'll be my fault that you decided to go to Omaha and we did, a week of shows remote. It's like, oh, Hayes made it hard. Like, I just want it for the record. Was not me. I'm just doing what
and I'm then told. Wednesday will be the Mount Rushmore of war machines.
So that best teams of the past 25 years?
Yes.
Okay. I'll bring a list.
And I have news for you. There will only be 3 teams on this Mount Rushmore.
What?
Yes.
Mount Rushmore 3?
Yes.
I can't even put it. Do we get to listen to voicemails? Or is that only if Ovius is here?
It's kind of hard.
I might text Ovius. I want the voicemails. You only got 3?
There's only 3. Because
So-
I'm saying they're war machines. Look, we can talk about the also runner-ups, the ones that you want honorable mentions. There's really only 3.
I mean, I don't want to ruin it, but I know 09 is going to be on there. UNC basketball 09.
Buddy, you're about to ruin it, okay?
You're not
There's
answering
only
anything.
3.
I will say this. I don't know if the 2006 Carolina Hurricanes were a war machine, but if you don't put a Stanley Cup winner, the only major championship in our state's history, we're going to have beef. But we'll get to that. I'll bring my list of war machines as well.
Wednesday.
Okay.
Save it for the show.
All right.
Roback.
Carolina Courage.
I got my Roback. I got my peaches out in Georgia. Use your promo code OG20. I had someone hit me up on the Instas. Hey, does your promo code still work for Roback? Yes, absolutely. OG20. And a little bit of a tip. If you've already ordered and used the promo code, just change the email. I actually had someone send me like an email generator from Google. They're like, here, just keep using it. I was like, oh,
it doesn't work.
Smart.
If you have Joe Ovius at Gmail, you can put periods in there anywhere and it's the same email.
Correct.
Joe.Ovius, J.O.E. Ovius. It's all the same.
You know what also works? Your money for you. Pay off those credit card debts. Hit MillerLending.com. 919-447-3377. No closing costs. No fees. What an idea.
I've been enjoying Miller time on the podcast.
Yes.
Stories. Been enjoying his stories more than his picks.
Yeah, well, we will actually talk to Gordon on Wednesday. So he's already looking forward to interacting with you. A little bit of old school there, a little old school radio. So
we can talk Detroit.
Credit card debt, whether you need to refi, any of these things, help yourself out, have a conversation, give Austin a call over at MillerLending.com, 919-447-3377. All right, I mentioned there was ACC news last week, kind of sort of news. Details from the settlement by the ACC with their multiple lawsuits with Florida State and Clemson came out. They emerged. Chapel Fowler down at the state, in-state media legacy guy.
But he just won the National Sports Media Association based here in North Carolina, just had their awards. I saw Chapel won the South Carolina Sports Writer of the Year.
Excellent.
Congratulations to Luke DeCock and Trip Tracy, I think were our winners from North Carolina. Broadcaster and Writer of the Year.
Absolutely.
And Anish Shroff. I think maybe Trip and Anish tied.
Absolutely. So David McKenzie is going to join us here very shortly. I just want to get a couple of numbers out there before David jumps in here. Basically, the gist of this this is something that was agreed upon previously. And these are now the details that were coming out as I sit here and scramble to find Chapel's.
I'll feel a little bit, make sure I understand it. This is Florida State sued the ACC, and the lawsuit wasn't directly to get out of the ACC, but it was to challenge the grant of rights deal that had been made, and was basically holding everybody, making it too cost prohibitive for anyone to move out. On
the surface, this feels like a loss for the ACC, and I think David will add some more context, because we now have established an exit fee, a payment that you're going to have to make to get out of the ACC, to get out of the deal. Before, it was kind of like, no, we own your rights forever. Yeah. And now until 2036. And now it becomes, no, here's a number. We're going to put this number on. You're going to have to pay it and you can get out. Now, from the Florida State and Clemson side, you're saying, that's a pretty good deal. Now, at least we know what it's going to cost us to get out. Before, we didn't even know. Feels like a pretty good compromise. If you're Florida State and Clemson, you're going, they can't leave this year, but if they were to leave this year, $165 million. Okay, I might have a little bit of that laying around on the couch cushions. Maybe. Spoiler, they don't. Next year, it's $147 million. Again, still pretty starchy, right? So I bring all of this up. There's a whole chart that Chapel has. The number goes down to $75 million in 2030. Again, we've all kind of pointed to 2030 as a time. Not only did the SEC and Big Ten contracts come up, but also the ACC. It does feel like 2030 has been looming as the date all along.
It's when you can start seeing the end of the grant of rights deal. Like, yeah, we would pay to get out of this. It's only a few years now.
Right. And I had somebody while I was on vacation, believe it or not, I was in Tallahassee.
For what?
Believe it or not, I was in Tallahassee.
Wow.
We have family friends who are celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary. Congrats to Claudia and Richie on 50 years. I mean, my goodness. So it was great to go down. It was actually legitimately great to go down there and see those people. Jessica and I drove. Oh man, it was 10 hours getting there. We stopped at both Buc-ee's, the one in Florence, the one in Brunswick. So that was something. I had somebody tweet at me, which I can't find right now. Oh, Giglio, Ovius and Giglio haven't been on the air since this big Florida State's big win. And I'm like, I'm actually in Tallahassee, believe it or not, for unknown reasons. I know David McKenzie has more on this topic. So here he comes, David McKenzie, our lawyer. I need to Venmo you $1, sir, so that we can have that attorney-client privilege since you've officially done work on my behalf now as well. So, but welcome to the OG. I clumsily fumble around the details that have emerged. What was your primary takeaway from the settlement information that became public last week?
That the grant of rights agreement lost, if anything. It was never about the exit fee. The exit fee, Florida State actually contested from the very beginning, so did Clemson. The exit fee, I think, was some fixed number of like $125 million, and then 3 years worth of league operating revenues or profits. I can't remember exactly which. And that amounted to, I think, about $150 to $160 million, which I think Florida State or Clemson would have gladly paid at the beginning of all of this. It was always about a grant of rights agreement. It was an intellectual property license that, grown men and women pledged their media interest to the ACC until 2036. What has essentially happened in this settlement is that the exit fee and the grant of rights agreement, or the damages that would arise from breaching the grant of rights agreement, which you got to look at it, that schools were receiving $50 million a year under that deal. So with 10 years remaining on that deal, that could, easily equal, $500 million. So as Florida State correctly pledged in its original agreement, they were seeking to get out of the exit fee, which they had a legitimate argument that it was actually a penalty in contract and therefore something that could be voidable. And then in addition to that, they were saying, well, this is under our media rights, this is worth at least $572 million. So together, they were looking at a staggering $700+ million potential way of getting out of the ACC. And so what happened in this agreement is that more or less the damages that would have come out of breaching the grant of rights agreement, as well as the exit fee, all became one. And so the grant of rights agreement became essentially, my reading of the settlement agreement, as Chapel Fowler asked me to do at the state, is that it's basically gone. So that's the main takeaway from it. And I would describe it.
So just to be clear.
Sure, absolutely.
Under the original grant of rights, you could leave the conference, but we still own your media rights. And this basically nullifies that. Now it's just basically you pay that scheduled fee and you take your rights with you.
Yes. So you pay that scheduled fee that in 2030 will be $75 million. That's a pretty manageable fee for most schools and even like the VCs of the league. And you get to take your media rights with you. The whole point of the grant of rights agreement is this is no different than what happens when Taylor Swift, for example, assigns her copyrights to the master label. And the grant of rights agreement, the whole point is to keep it with whoever you're granting it to, in this case the ACC, and to make it hard to leave. And to be clear, everybody needs to realize that every conference has some form of a grant of rights agreement, just like this. So whether or not they will in the future is quite another issue, because this is such a trailblazing way of approaching conference membership. That's an open question. So, but the grant of rights agreement was always sort of intended to keep everybody together and to make it really hard to leave. And so that's the number one thing that I would say lost in this whole situation.
When you look at this from a legal standpoint, which obviously is the lens that you look at things, did the ACC quote unquote lose?
I do think the ACC quote unquote lost, but I think it's in context. Okay. One of the reasons that I mean, and I will say this repeatedly until the cows come home, is that I do not believe that this settlement agreement matured because of anything having to do with the law. I think it was probably, I mean, you got to think about it from the school's perspective in the ACC, one of which is like, it seems to me like one section of the agreement is that there is a built-in super conference out, if you will, for football where you can remain in basketball in 2030. And so you got to think about it. You can't just show up in December of 2029 and start planning that Super League. I would be willing to bet you that the plans are in the works for that Super League now. And as you approach that 2030 date, I promise you're going to get closer to even more planning for that Super League. And so the question becomes really more of a practical one rather than a legal one, or a business one rather than a legal one. If the ACC schools want to participate in that Super League, what would it do to have the cloud of litigation across 3 jurisdictions in multiple venues in those jurisdictions, at the trial court and then the courts of appeals and Supreme Courts and the like? What does that do to your prospects of being able to join and participate in that? It creates a massive cloud over whether or not that Super League can actually form and mature, or whether the ACC players, like especially the Magnificent Seven, as Brett McMurphy, coined it, which is, how can NC State, UNC, Virginia Tech, UVA, Clemson, Florida State, Miami, who were part of those original discussions, how can they meaningfully, be a part of those discussions while being in this, morass of litigation? And so the grant of rights was it was never the exit fee. It was always the grant of rights agreement. And so now what you have in the settlement agreement are these schools where all schools have a contractual path forward to be a part of that Super League, while the other leagues do not. I mean, it's not the same thing. So it was one that I say is not based on the law. Yeah, I think it's a loss for the ACC, but read in that context of what was actually coming and being able to get rid of the litigation, be part of the future in a meaningful way, that may be one of the reasons why they settled. It'd be nice if some of the athletic directors would speak up and tell us what actually happened, because these people were in round 2 of their litigation at most.
Hey, Dave, Hayes Permar here. I've listened to you on with the Ovis and Giglio podcast many times. First time getting to talk to you. It's great to meet you. You kind of hit on this just now, but usually when I hear law and somebody's making a settlement and you're calling it a loss, that usually means they're trying to ward off an even worse loss, right? If you take a settlement, you're worried that things might not be going your way. Is there something that the ACC saw that they thought a judge might not hold up these grant of rights that pushed them to maybe be a settlement? Or is it more what I heard you just describe? Maybe they're looking at the future of this is going to be an evolving thing, and we need to give people a way to get out of this league gracefully, I guess, if there is going to be a Super League.
Well, I think the biggest loss would be for schools like Carolina, NC State, not to be a part of whatever's in the future. But in terms of your more principled question of what was the loss in the law, it was not at all clear a loss that was going on between the various judges and the various jurisdictions. Things were actually trending very well for the ACC in North Carolina. They had won at the trial court. They had won an important provision at the North Carolina Supreme Court. There remained this constitutional question that the North Carolina Supreme Court was going to take up. But as to some of the other questions, their petition for cert review was denied. In South Carolina, the only thing that happened there is that it remained at the trial court. And pardon me, you may hear some playful kids in the background. But in South,
I love the sound.
Yeah, I just got done working out, and I'm at my club, and so there's a camp going on. But if you look at it in South Carolina, was at stage 1. In Florida, now that's a little bit more interesting because they were taking some losses down there on sovereign immunity grounds. Joe, I've talked to you a number of times about sovereign immunity. Sovereign immunity is basically, to put it in the simplest form, it basically stands for the proposition that the state can screw you over and not pay you for a harm that was imposed or contract loss that they had or whatever. It's never really applied to contract law, but the judge in Tallahassee or Leon County, Florida, was actually seemingly to buy that argument. And so we were dealing with this situation of things not looking good in Florida. And I will add that the District Court of Appeals in Florida did affirm the initial ruling of not staying and proceeding in that respect. So it wasn't at all clear that it was going badly for the ACC. And even in Florida, I believe that this sovereign immunity argument would have hit a wall and that the Florida appellate system would have held. Now, the issue becomes, how long could we have remained with that much uncertainty, given that we're kind of losing in Florida, we're winning in North Carolina, things are unclear in South Carolina. It just creates for this huge amount of ambiguity. And at least this is, like 2025.5. We have 4.5 years left before this thing's going to take shape. So how much, in order for us to be a part of this, we got to figure out what to do. And so maybe that's what drove the settlement. Now, why they did it on the terms that they did, that are so really leaning towards Florida State and Clemson, that's another question to me. And it's not only leaning towards Florida State and Clemson. Let's be honest. Bubba Cunningham still looks like a friggin' genius by sitting in the background and letting this kind of thing happen, because there's no question that Carolina is a dominant brand in the ACC, and it's benefiting too.
Yeah, Florida was the real wild card here. That judge, I think that's where the ACC. I think those lawyers for Florida State basically said, "You're not going to win here, and we're just going to make you miserable. We're going to make you keep paying." So I think the ACC's two concessions are taking the decision out of their hands, out of the crazy Florida judge, if you will, Florida man. And then the no lawsuits, I think, was also something, as you mentioned, David. I think that was also a concession for the ACC. Fine, now you're in the lead, and now where do we go from here? And I found the tweet that had kind of sparked this and bothered me. It's from obviously a Florida State fan. Interesting that Joe Giglio and Joe Giglio haven't posted a thing about this, considering the comments they made about Florida State when the lawsuit got filed against the ACC. Okay, to be clear, what we said was Florida State thought they were getting out tomorrow. Right. Okay.
We'll sue. We're out.
We're not only is this thing not going to stand up in court, but we're going to be out tomorrow, and we're going to be in the Big Ten or the SEC in 26.
Next year. Yep.
And it's like, no, actually, they thought it was going to be 23 or 24 when they filed the lawsuit. So A, we're still fucking right, dickhead. Okay. B, Florida State's still in the league, and we have said all along 30 is the year when the whole thing is going to reset. So
correct.
While I appreciate you looking out for me and our podcast when we're on vacation, we took one fucking week off this year. I appreciate that. But the truth of the matter is, we have been consistent this whole time in telling you, and David has been on this program multiple times telling you, and I know people want to dunk on David. Oh, you were wrong. You were wrong. It's like, no. The league did what they thought was best for them, getting out of future lawsuits, and they made the concessions that they made. I think in part, David, and this is the second part of this, is this new distribution model. And I think this is a move that I think you're going to see the SEC copy, and I think you're going to see even the Big Ten copy it, even with the bigger numbers that they have. The ACC, quote unquote, closed the gap last year in the fiscal returns. They are clearly the third in revenue distribution, clearly $711 million. The Big 12 was $558. So Brett Yormark and his imaginary numbers last year, like that was like the biggest vibe check of all time. No, we're the third best conference. Clearly you're not. The SEC was 840. I know 7-11 and 840. There's a bigger number there, but it's not this. And
not
now
3 times as much.
This distribution model, David, which is completely changed, actually does give Florida State and Clemson, if they stay, an opportunity to not really be lapped by the SEC, which is what the original lawsuit was all about. How do we keep up with the SEC? I also contend, as I've said from the beginning, if it's about access to a championship, and if you're about that life, and if you're trying to win titles, sign me up for being the best team in the third best conference rather than having to go beat Ohio State, Michigan, Oregon. Sign me up for that today and every day. So if this distribution model, revenue distribution model helps you, they might in 2030 look at it and go, I'd still rather be the king of the dipshits than the fifth best person in the best conference.
Oh,
right?
100%. I would going back to when this lawsuit was originally filed, and understanding that Twitter is not a real place. It's like an imaginary land, that where, people go on to, spout shit that they know nothing about. The grant of rights actually did hold. I mean, I know that, I say that it did loss at the same time, so I'm contradicting myself, but it's not, but Florida State can figure out a way to get out of it. And so it was conceding a lot too in getting out of it. Now, did it all sort of, land on their side of it? Yes, it did. But going back to your more your principal point, Joe, that this is why this is so different. And while it's a trailblazing agreement, I mean, one of the things that has always made any kind of league or conference, pro or collegiate, is an egalitarian business model when it comes to revenue distribution. That's gone. That's why I think that this settlement agreement is so trailblazing. And so what you're looking at now is a situation where Greg Sankey is going to have to explain to Texas and Alabama why it is they have to subsidize Vanderbilt when the ACC just told Clemson and Florida State that they don't have to subsidize Wake Forest. So it's an interesting model that you would think that Ohio State would be like, well, why am I sharing so much with Rutgers? You know, and then I think it also raises questions. I think throughout the sports media landscape, and goes all the way into the pros. Why is it that the Dallas Cowboys should have to, the largest probably, buy media viewer eyeballs? Why is it that they should be sharing the same amount of revenue in an egalitarian model with a small market team like the Saints? It just, so it's going to, I think, have ripple effects. And so I think that may, Joe, I really think that may have been the point of this agreement, is because, you know, the ACC was stuck in a bad deal with Raycom and ESPN, and it was going to last until 2036. That was untenable based on the amount of revenue that other leagues were getting. So if they could just force the needle a little bit and or jigger the distribution model so that others more powerful schools are also thinking about, oh, this could be beneficial to me. Yeah, so I think that may have actually been the point of the whole agreement.
David McKenzie, appreciate you taking your time, sir. Enjoy your workout. Enjoy your summer. We will talk soon. And seriously, send me your Venmo, because I'm going to send you $1 so that we have our attorney-client privilege.
You don't need it. All you have to do is the agreement to do something. So it was already there, as I told UNC. I'll tell you about that later.
Okay.
I also just realized McKenzie is part of the illustrious high school class of 1997. Do I have that right?
In Clemson, South Carolina, the illustrious class of 1992.
Oh, well, darn! I missed when you were going to school. Sorry, I had you.
I'm a Clemson native, so D.W. Daniel High School, 1992. I will see you, Hayes, at the Rialto, up the street from us, and for that podcast event.
We'll look forward to it, man.
Yeah.
All right, David, you're the best, man. Appreciate you.
All right, thanks, you guys. Appreciate it.
David joined us on the Heister Automotive Group hotline. As I've proved all summer, not only can you buy a car from Heister, not only can you sell your car from Heister, but you can get your car serviced by our good friends at the Heister Automotive Group. Check them out at heisterauto.com. It's summertime. You know what you need to do if you're trying to get into a new house before the school year starts?
Make sure the air conditioning works.
Yeah, we can have a conversation. You and I. Hit up our good friends at Hometown Realty, myhtr.com. Please, pretty please, get yourself set. Don't think, oh, I can save 2% if I don't use a real. Stop. Don't be stupid. Okay. Get yourself into these neighborhoods where they can get you deals. Okay. My HDR, you can buy and sell with confidence. And of course, you're going to close. Our friends at Whitaker and Hamer are going to be there for you, just like we will be at Shady's on 717. We will be tapping a keg of OG Light.
Look at that.
On
Look at that.
717 over at Shady's, the Champagne podcast. Shouts to, I'm interested in your thoughts on this. I feel like I've officially become a cap. Let's go Caps.
Okay.
The Peace Street Market
will
be our home base for distribution of OG Light.
Whoa. All right. That gets you very close to Broughton territory.
Am I there?
But all right, here's what you got to do. You got to go learn what the Peace Street Market was called.
I know.
What was it?
7 Even.
All right, you're in. You're in. You're at the
one of my
knockoff
favorites.
7-Eleven, the 7 even.
One of my all-time favorites. And then there was, of course, the 6 and 12
Yes,
over on Western.
the 7 even was just amazing.
The best beer selection in Raleigh, right? We can agree on that.
Yep.
Okay. Our guy Chris over at P Street will have OG Light. So unfortunately, with the breeze through end of our relationship with them, and they sold all of their locations, we needed a home base. The P Street Market will be your home base for OG Light, and you can always get it on tap at Shady's in Garner. So we will be there 717, and you have OG Light at the Rialto.
I do.
Well, right?
We have a couple cans left. We got a case of the first group. They went quickly, but we may have 1 or 2 rogue ones chilling out for you when you come see summer movies.
You guys were great in that first run of OG Light, and when I went over to Chris, I'm like, oh man, we sold 50 cases in like 3 days, dude. So
I felt terrible. I called. Without going into too much detail of like, you know, I'm a small business, so it's easier to work with fewer people. So there's bigger distributors that handle multiple local beer places, right? It's like if you want Crank Arm beer, I get it through my distributor who might also bring me other things. That's just easier. One call, I can get Crank Arm beer and get wine and get whatever.
We've learned a lot about beer distributors in the last couple months.
Same here.
And you have in the last few years.
So Bond Brothers, but they're still
they don't use a distributor.
Yes. So when I called and said, I want to reserve me one because they're going fast.
Yeah.
I assumed, hey, it's too late to get on their delivery schedule. I'll go over there and pick it up. I know where they are. They're right there. There's a great bagel place nearby there.
There is.
Pick me up a Big Dom's bagel and I'll get my Bond Brothers. And the guy was like, no, we're bringing it to you. Well, it had it was already a busy weekend. What was it? Maybe it was like graduation weekend or just something else big. And then you guys dropped, 50 cases on them all of a sudden. My dude showed up. He did his job great and had a great attitude. You could see in his eyes. He was like, no more. I was like, man, I would have come gotten it from you. He's like, no, we're delivering. I'm like, he had been put through the ringer with the OG. There was something else big going on that week, but the delivery guys were working hard. I pledge I'll go just pick up my next case and make it easy for everybody.
Perfect. And in the process, you could save yourself some money on your insurance. Home, auto, life, pet, you name it. Matt Davis in Garner is there for you. InsureGarner.com. Matt Davis, give him a call. Have a conversation. See how I can save for you. 919-779-8277. All right, Hayes. It's the lightning round. We have a lot to get into in the lightning round.
You thought we were going to breeze through those other topics. Now we're already here, an hour in.
You thought, aha. So you got a little taste. When I know you're going to be on, you're kind enough to join me for 3 days this week. I'll start randomly texting you. So you get the full Ovius treatment of random things.
I believe it's from the toilet, as Ovius says.
That's what he likes to say, but that's not really true.
All right.
I don't watch TV anymore. I have sit in a chair. I have a little heating pad thing that I put on my neck, and I just scroll. And that's all I pretty much do.
Are you even on the TikToks?
I am not.
I mean,
my wife is. She loves TikToks.
There's some good stuff on there.
Yes, I haven't.
Add that to your scrolling. I mean, it's just worth it just for the scrolls. My man Tyler out there killing Carnival Cruises. It's just there's all kinds of stuff on the talk.
Well, let's start with this because I love a one-word tweet.
Yes.
The one word from our On3, the one word Hall of Fame. The one word that I came across this time was promise. Promise. This is from Jeremiah Smith, the outstanding receiver for Ohio State. This is from On3 Sports. I just hate them. Just something about them for the next 2 years. I promise you, I will not lose to them. I cannot lose to them in the next 2 years. Jeremiah Smith via The Athletic.
He's trying to go Tim Tebow.
Promise. What would your one-word tweet be? What would you want your one-word tweet to be?
I don't know. Well, before I answer
feels like a very radio-y.
Yeah.
I just sprung that on you.
Yeah. What am a one-word tweet? I mean, fun.
Summer.
Probably. I always want things to be fun.
Yeah.
Isn't On3? Are they kind of leaning into this? Like,
yes, they
our
are.
tweets are a little bit silly now, and we're going to keep doing it.
I love them though.
I
have a tweet, one-word tweet Hall of Fame. Promise will be on there now.
And so does that mean it's a guarantee? We used to debate that. If a guy said, yeah, we're definitely going to win game 5, like, wait, whoa, was that a guarantee? Was that a Joe Namath guarantee? Is that what this was? No, promise you're going to win something. I'm not impressed. I was hoping you would say, I promise we won't lose to them. And then it came out 2 days later, he transferred to Michigan. Yeah, that would be more of a 2025 type narrative of like, I promise I'll never lose to them. And I promise I'll never lose to them because I'm going to play for them now. That's how we know I won't lose to them.
All right, speaking of my favorite topics, I would really just like everyone in Major League Baseball to get their head out of their ass and automate the strike zone. I know you are very romantic about baseball, but let's watch what happened between the Mets and the Yankees this weekend. Let's see.
In this series, so
not even close to the strike zone. Framed by the catcher.
Like that.
That was terrible.
Seen a lot of hitters have some problems with home plate umpire John Bacon this
It
afternoon.
was trying to get
There's that glove coming back to the strike zone, Paul. Gets the call. And that's what you pick up there. Now you get some barking from the other side. That's what you pick up as a hitter when you follow the ball in. You see the glove move, and it just, in my mind as a hitter, think, why are you moving? If it's on the plate, you don't need to move it.
And the 0-2. Strike three. Same score. Wow. Same reaction.
Garbage. Here comes the manager. He's obviously upset. You get the gist of where we're going now, though. It's 6-4 in the bottom of the ninth.
Also, I don't want to go. I don't want to go all obvious on you, but I don't think people can hear you talking when it's playing, right? Or
I don't even know. So my bad. I always feel like I'm John Boy narrating, and I can't.
I know.
All right, so
big John Boy fan.
There, for those of you who are listening, there were two pitches that were nowhere near the strike zone that were framed by the Yankees catcher. It's 6-4. It's the bottom of the ninth. The games should be decided by the players.
Okay.
You have the technology to automate the strike zone.
Okay.
For all of these people who are romantic about the home plate umpire and worried about how he's going to retire or worried about how he's going to keep the lights on in his fucking house.
Okay.
By the way, you still need a human behind the plate for plays. So you're not replacing him.
Sure.
You're just taking a one piece, as we see in Wimbledon. There's still an umpire. There's still line judges.
We're gonna get there, and you're telling on yourself that maybe you didn't watch Wimbledon this weekend because I've got a card for you ready to play.
Okay. So what I'm getting at is just automate the strike zone. You have the technology. These umpires shouldn't be able to affect the outcome of the game in the way that they do. I get it. They only miss 6% of their calls or 7% of their calls. This is the hand-waking motion for you people who are listening on your podcast right now. Okay. Seriously, get the hell out of here with this shit. Just automate the strike zone and be done with it. I don't know how many times Major League Baseball has to go through this fucking circus of acting like, the sanctity of the home plate umpire. What will we do? Here's what you'll do. You'll just have a better game.
All right. So that was going to be one of my questions. What's your goal in a automated strike zone? Better. When you say better game, what do you mean? More fun to watch?
It will be. There will be no question about whether there was a ball or a strike.
Is that a better game?
That is a better game. Yes.
Sure?
I do not go to the games to watch the umpire. I don't go to the games to watch the manager get upset with the umpire.
You sure you don't?
I am positive.
Sure you don't go to the.
I am 100% positive.
I think it may be a case of. I think much like fans go to a minor league hockey game and they want to fight, I think fans want to see a guy yell at an umpire and get thrown out.
Sure.
I think maybe not.
Now, fights usually don't determine the outcome of the game either, by the way.
But the bigger point I'm getting to is you can make a better called game, a more accurately called game. I don't believe that's necessarily a more entertaining game. I'm not going to make the full case, but I'm not fully defending not going to automatic. I'm sort of making what the case is, right?
Yes.
But Monty Jones talked about this recently if you watch the Pacers and the Thunder, that was very high level NBA basketball because we now have young people who are trained as robots how to play the right way, whipping it around, shooting only 3 points or layups or whatever. And maybe the game's not as entertaining. The New York point guard that can dribble like it's on a yo-yo and do things that are crazy. And maybe he's not the best recipe for winning, but it's that is entertainment. But specifically, let me get to, did you see at Wimbledon what happened this weekend with the automatic umpiring?
I did not.
Okay. So two females are playing. One female hits a shot clearly long, a foot long, right? Like no one in dispute. And the girl, like, plays it because she doesn't hear the automatic system say out. So she hits it and clearly, hits it poorly, whatever. Well, everyone says it's the umpire's like, hold on, stop here. Stop.
Even the
stop,
umpire.
Stop. Well, as we've come to learn, the humans operating the automatic system clicked something wrong. The perils of technology and trying to get two cameras and two microphones working at the same time, right? And I'm not knocking that. I'm saying and so that girl would have won the game with that obviously long ball. Instead, the edict came, well, the replay screwed up, replay the point. The other girl won the point and the game.
Ooh.
So so there is an element of, if you go totally on robots, what happens when they glitch or they're wrong? Like, or how do you know?
But the robots will glitch fewer times than the humans. I think that's already been proven.
Maybe. Okay.
And in tennis, you're talking about millions of points that they get right compared to a handful, not 8%, which I believe is the Major League Baseball rate.
I'm going to go to an even more, I'm taking this to an even more serious level that we're not at, but this is happening it's happened in flight already, and it's going to happen in driving too, right?
Yes, yeah.
Where automated flight, computers doing most of the flying, makes overall flying is much safer. Flying is safer now than it's ever been because computers have taken out a lot of the errors. That's what you want.
Yes.
You're like, we'll never get out all the errors, but if we can get out most of the errors, that's better. Fewer errors is better than more, right?
Correct.
If computers only make an error 1% of the time, that's better than humans making 6% of the time. The problem is, and this happens with flights, and it's got with cars, where guys like you and me are like, I understand that automated car travel is safer, but as somebody who's driven my car for 50 years, I want the ability to hit the brakes and swerve when I know it's time. So yes, overall, the calls will be better, but when it doesn't work, it's going to be a catastrophe, right? You now have a guy flying a plane who's never learned.
Listen.
So it's going to be ones like this where the system glitches, and all of a sudden everybody's looking at each other and be like, whoa, we all know that was a ball, but how do we make this fair? Because the system didn't call it a ball. I'm just saying.
I love your radio passion right now. I really do. But baseball is not life or death.
It's
flying
not.
in a plane, driving in a car can be life or death. While I understand your analogy, it is a false one. Okay.
No.
It is a false one because no one's going to live or die based on the mistake. Okay.
No one is going to live or die. But my point is, just like the Wimbledon example, in the past, you had a line judge missing a call, but it was always like a 16th of an inch. Now you're going to get an egregious, something terrible happened. The system was supposed to do it. We're all looking at each other being like,
so was there a human umpire there?
No, there was the chair umpire, but he couldn't say, we all saw that out, call it out, give it the point.
That's how you amend
that. Should have been done.
Yeah.
Right. I guess, but my bigger point is when your automated system fails, it's going to look even dumber than when a person just misses a call that's like that close.
I have faith.
And you're going to
in a strike zone that doesn't move. I have faith.
And I agree with you. It'll get the calls right more. I'm not making the case, but I'm not sold that the game will be better. Same with
they've already sped up the game, which has been an important part of improving the game. I think this also would also
this is the first year, aren't we, in the NFL? I know it's not going to happen at Garner or Broughton or Inlow High School, but the NFL, aren't we getting rid of the chain gang guys this year?
I don't know if they're getting rid of them, but they've improved the technology to
but like the ball. And I don't know, is it going to be better as a fan watching on TV to be told boop, blink, first down, as opposed to like dudes wandering out there fat and we're all yelling like, oh my God, how did they even know where he put the ball? And like pulling it out there. And then Jadeveon Clowney comes in wrecking shop because he didn't like the My big thing is I still don't know. Yes, it will make for more accurate calls. I'm not 100% sold that it makes for a better overall product.
To get to lightning round. A lot to get to.
I see. I was so far out of practice, I forgot our transitions. But there we go. We got the Pearl Jam one, my favorite one. Let's get a little funky now. Let's go with something I've never understood. You're a business owner. I'm a small business owner. I have never understood this, and I'm glad somebody finally broke it down for us. This is an individual who's going to tell us HBO is a brand name. I'm 50, you're 40 something. Like HBO, like forever was like premium cable, the best shows. HBO had all the movies. Like it was like and
people were willing to add 20%
right
to the cable bill. Like,
an instantly recognizable brand for Gen X.
Yep.
Right? I'm not making this up. So I've never understood why they took HBO out of the brand name HBO. So this is something else.
Waste of money you have ever heard. In 2022, the consulting company McKenzie was paid $55 million to advise Warner Brothers to merge with Discovery. And then from 2022 to 2025, McKenzie were paid another $37 million to advise Warner Brothers Discovery to change HBO to HBO Max, and then from HBO Max to Max, and then from Max back to HBO Max. And then in 2025, McKenzie billed Warner Brothers Discovery another $63 million to basically advise that Warner Brothers Discovery should in fact be two brands called Warner Brothers and Discovery. And oh my word, who is signing these bills off? This is absolutely insane. What on earth is going on? How they got away with that, I have absolutely no idea. Those numbers are ridiculous.
So how do we get into the consulting business? Where did we go wrong?
We've been talking about, well, you guys always talk about it's the coaching search business too, right?
Right.
Those are consultants. Recently, I heard John Skipper, former ESPN boss, who now does stuff with DAZN and what other sports stuff. He was on Pablo Torre's podcast, and he was talking specifically about, I tried my hardest to never use consultants. Hiring a consultant feels like you've already made the decision you want to do, and you're hiring them to talk you through the PR of your decision, right? How to sell your decision to other people.
Remember the NHL after the lockout, they came back and they're like, the logo is upward leaning, just like the league, forward into the future. And it's like, the NHL logo used to be this. They just made it that.
Well, so the two factor for me is one, yes, who didn't think HBO was the strongest brand out of all those things you said? Like in today's world of streaming, like HBO figured out a way for us to come out of pocket for an extra $15.
The originals,
40 years ago,
the OGs,
40 years ago, we were paying a cable. Everything was consolidated. They're like, yeah, but if you want this one channel, it's like, all right, And now it's kind of seemed like still a good deal in the world where like everything wants to charge you $10 or $15 a month. You're like, yeah, let me keep that HBO. They put out at least one good show is probably in rotation, and then the movie options. Now there's even more sports. But the second part, so one is like, we were all screaming, who the hell is telling you to take HBO out of HBO? Who is putting Max in there? And we always still refer to it as HBO, right? While they were doing that, Succession was going on, other shows. Like nobody was like, Succession over on Max. Like nobody was referring to that. It was HBO. That brand is strong, keep it. And the other one is, of course, consulting. I lived in DC, and this was the best.
You did?
I lived in DC for a couple of years, 2008 to 2010-ish. Yeah. Yeah. It was right when the buzz was transitioning to 99.9 The Fan. I skipped the transition. I headed out of town. I was in DC. I basically took an apprentice on how to learn to do video. I was working at a place trying to learn how to do video. I was next door neighbors with Darius Sangaila. I played for the Wizards.
Yeah.
I split Wizards season tickets for one of the worst teams of all time. JaVale McGee, DeAndre, like the post Javaris Crittenden fallout Wizards. I mean, it was a ragtag group of bunch. But you had a bunch of young people I lived with, 25-year-olds, who worked for consulting firms, McKinsey, Deloitte, all these other ones, right? And I used to love to play this game. I'd be like, hey, man, like, who do you work for? Like, I work for a consulting firm, like Deloitte. Like, oh, cool. Like, what do you do? And they're like, we advise, it's oftentimes like a government contract. No. What do you do? And they're like, well, we have, no. Like, it's Monday morning. You go into work. You sit down at your desk. I want you to tell. And like the joke was they could never be like, well, I do this and then I have a meeting and I ask them. I'm like, no, like it's consulting. It is the biggest scam of scams. And most of the times it's cover for our government. Like our government wants to go bomb somebody or take over another government. So we pay McKinsey to be like, here's $100 million file on why you should tell the American people this is a good idea. Go do it. Let's get it done. Consulting.
Topics stack it up. Giglio's roll back it up. Well, I know what we'll do. A lightning round.
All right, last one, and this one blew my mind. Did you watch the show The Wire? I'm assuming you did.
I did. Great show.
Okay, is The Wire in your top 3 of all time shows?
I don't rank them as much, and I'm a sucker for some old school sitcoms that some people don't have. You know what I mean? So like, let's say top 10.
How about
let's say top 10
of the HBO shows?
of the
since we just
HBO
did
shows? Yeah, it's top 5 for sure.
Okay,
It's a great one.
I would put The Wire at number 2. My number 2, I would have Breaking Bad number 1 overall.
I thought you were going Sopranos. This Jersey guy.
Nope. I like The Sopranos, but no, Game of Thrones, even with their ending, I would have ahead of.
I never got into that one.
The Sopranos. So The Wire is a newspaper guy, wrote The Wire. Okay. Worked in Baltimore. Unbelievable writer. Okay. He also did other shows. Or I'm not doing justice. It's a very complicated show.
Yep.
And every season was a different aspect of basically Baltimore.
Yep.
Okay. Like the whole point of the show was everything's connected. All right.
There's nobody is only a good guy or a bad guy.
Right.
Like everyone is making trades. Everyone is making deals.
Nuanced show.
The people getting convicted of selling drugs and killing people. Some of them are good people and some of them are bad people.
Right.
It's all, the people who are politicians, the people who are locking up these people, some of them are good, some are bad, but everybody's got a little bit of good and bad in them.
I literally had to read after every episode about what just happened. The guy who's from New Jersey, used to work at the Star Ledger. I wish I could remember his name off the top of my head, but I can't. He literally had The Wire for beginners and The Wire for people rewatching. Okay. And I'm telling you, I could not get through watching The Wire without the interpretation. All right. That's how complicated this show is and was.
Sure.
Okay. An unbelievable show. And it introduced us. At the time, there were a bunch of, nobody knew who these people were.
That's how you know it's a good show.
Right.
When 20 years later, you're seeing the actors from that show or all leads and other stuff.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, it's because of this show.
Exactly. Including Idris Elba, who is now,
one of the best actors in the world.
People Magazine, most beautiful, this, that, the other.
Potential James Bond, always mentioned.
He is Stringer Bell in The Wire.
Yep.
One of the main characters, one of the main drug dealers in Baltimore. One of the iconic characters in the history of television. I say this in a way of setting up this clip where he goes on with Amy Poehler and says this.
I didn't watch it. And I feel bad. It's not that I'm not a fan of it. I was there. I made a show that was, was so intense and so real, so important. And even though I didn't realize the importance of the show while making it.
Yeah. Rarely do we.
Right.
Yeah.
But I didn't participate in its celebration as a viewer, as a fan.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel a little bit like,
well, could you
outside
start
the club.
celebrating it now?
No, man.
Why?
I mean,
that makes me sad that you can't enjoy how good you are in The Wire.
Oh.
You're so good. Idris. Okay, I know. Okay, I'm going to turn into like
from my twin. I'm taking this. Thank you.
Okay.
I didn't watch the.
What? What? Now you are the more theatrical type.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All I could think about in this was like, you don't have. Imagine Robert Downey. I didn't watch Iron Man. Like, I get it. It's not as much CGI and all this other shit. But The Wire was so fucking complicated. You mean what?
All right. A couple things on this. One is, have you ever talked to athletes when you're blown away how little they care about sports? Like, just because their gifts put them in there to play the thing. I know it's different. I know it's different, but I'm at least making a case. Like, there are dudes who play for a baseball
it's a job.
team.
I do it.
And you ask them the other teams in their division, and they're like, I don't know. Like, I know the pitcher next
I get on
week
the bus.
because that's who I'm studying him, but like, I don't actually know what like, there's a little bit of that. Don't assume I think it'd be weird if he's like, oh yeah, I've watched The Sopranos and Game of Thrones and Succession, and I just didn't watch The Wire, right? That would be a little more weird, but the only connection that I can make, since we have to make this personal, I happened to be on the Rachel Ray show one time.
Okay.
My nieces were on there. It was they were making a connection to Full House. I once was in a Full House type situation.
Okay.
Where I lived with my nieces and my brother-in-law. And Full House was coming back out. So it kind of fit the thing. So they got flown up there on Rachel Ray. I was invited, but it was sort of short notice and I couldn't go. So I recorded my little piece. They were like, tell us about this and this. And it, sent some things on there. So we were all on Rachel Ray. They were there in person. I was there as part of the segment, but I've never seen it. I know it's different. But you would be like, wait, you didn't want to go like watch it? I'm like, I would have if somebody had shown me, but like, I don't know. I didn't watch it, I've also filmed, I've been in a movie, like a friend making a movie that he's given me a copy of the DVD. Hey, here's the movie we made that you're in like these 3 scenes.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't watch it. Again, I'm not comparing it to Idris Elba, but I would like to know what other HBO shows he has watched. Maybe he just didn't watch that much TV. And if that's the case, I don't think it's as big a deal.
There are many topics for lightning rounds today on OMG.
Well, actually, I guess since we're about to talk about Belichick, I should play this one instead.
I cannot imagine having the opportunity 5 days a week to watch what is happening with Bill Belichick.
So I mentioned I went out of town. I was down in Tallahassee. I was down at Florida State. The Lorum family, they're big Georgia fans. Some of them are Florida fans. Some of them are Georgia fans. But you get into conversations about college football, and it's like, wow, you guys got Bill Belichick up in the triangle now. Like, what's it like? What's going on up there? What do you think? You start having conversations. So I have said all along, I think Carolina will be a good team this year that will not beat themselves. They might not be. I don't think they'll win the ACC. I don't obviously think they're going to win the national championship. I think they have an outside chance because of their schedule to make the playoff. I do. I think they have an outside chance to pull an Indiana or an SMU, go 10-2.
Be good enough.
Right? You'd have to be 10-2 probably.
Yep.
Go 10-2 and make the playoff. Okay. There's obviously a lot of work to be done there. You're going to pull some levers, do some things, but I trust that Bill Belichick also will have the kind of year, like he gets to do all of his old tricks. Nobody in college has quote unquote seen him. Bill O'Brien has at Boston College, but they don't play Boston College.
We got a new minister at our church recently, and I'm like, how great is this? Like, she could just roll out all of her greatest hits. Nobody's heard this story before.
Perfect.
Like, you got a year of just old time hits.
So that's how I've kind of taken. I know Ovius thinks it's going to be a spectacular failure. I understand the premise of why it would be a failure. Quite frankly, I'm not sure they got that good of players. You know, so that's a fair assessment of what possibly could happen. I just think all along I think this guy's a really good coach. I think their schedule is very amenable. I think they'll improve defensively. I think they will. I mean, it's been however many years that they've been so bad defensively. Yep. I think they'll be a better football team. So that leads me to number one. So Colin Cowherd had a take on Belichick that I was like,
wait, I thought we only made fun of Colin Cowherd on this show.
It's a lot like. All right, so let's see what he had to say about Belichick.
Has sold out their season tickets before they have played a game under Bill Belichick. So it's the Dion effect. I think if you put Belichick in the SEC or the Big Ten, he'd get rolled. You need to be able to recruit. Got to have great energy. Intelligence to some degree can be muted. Belichick's a little grumpy. His energy is meh. Belichick's a so-so recruiter. And his messaging, let's be honest, kind of complex. I think the one thing that saves Belichick is the ACC is terrible. If you look at their schedule outside of the Clemson game, they can match up with anybody. I mean, there's just W's everywhere in this thing. And this is why I've supported Bill Belichick and Jordan Hudson. For some of these programs like Colorado and Carolina, selling out the stadium, getting on television, raising NIL money trumps getting to the playoffs.
Okay. That last point, no. The first point about Dion, no, it's not the Dion effect. Do you think it's the Dion effect? Do you think people are interested in Bill Belichick and Carolina football like they were at Colorado and Deion Sanders? Taking the personalities out of it, because clearly the personalities are nowhere near each other.
No, the crazy thing when I was listening to that of like, fill the stadium, get the NIL, get excitement. I'm like, isn't that what Mac was supposed to do?
He did,
and he kind
for
of
a couple of years.
He
Yeah,
just wasn't supposed to go for 5 years. It was supposed to be
Right.
like 3 years, and then we've got that like by the middle of the second season, we should have identified who's filling in after the third season. But then he was like, well, I got NFL QBs. Why am I going to stop coaching? You know, but like that was kind of the game there, and it worked a little bit, right? Like when Mac first showed back, and the games were exciting. They were all like 41-40, either wins or losses, right? But I don't know. No, I mean, I feel like Belichick is supposed to be more than just a splash, right?
Yes. Yeah. You're not spending all this money if you're from Carolina's perspective. I think this is all, and we were not on the air last week, so we didn't get into what Carolina did with Bubba Cunningham and how they've kind of restructured. I think every move they've made has been to position themselves to join the Big Ten, which is where I think that will end up. And I think by improving their football, even though my argument for Carolina and State and Virginia Tech is you'd rather be the mark that the SEC wants than to try to compete with Ohio State and Michigan and whoever else. But anyway, that's a separate point for another day. I think everything Carolina has done has been to improve their football. Belichick was a splashy hire. I think that let's also be very clear about their season tickets. They reduced the size of their stadium. So you're asking the most popular school in the state to sell 40,000 football tickets. Like, slow clap. Congratulations. Like, welcome to the real world, Carolina. So I think that's also Colin Cowherd being out in LA, not having a single clue or understanding what is actually happening. So I really saw that originally and was like, hey, the day they even started talking to him, I wrote down on this piece of paper their schedule.
The schedule, yes.
And I have been hammering their schedule this whole time about the primary reason why I think it could be better than most people think this year for Carolina, even with all of the whatever has been going on this offseason.
Well, I think there's a little bit to your point of, and maybe people behind the scenes obviously know more than I do, but everyone feels like there is still a seismic shift left to come in college football.
Yes.
Whether it's the one super league or the like, we are now not even NCAA, we are this new entity.
AFC, NFC.
And yes.
Big Ten, SEC.
To your point, I don't think it's necessarily that UNC thinks, oh, the Big Ten and the SEC would want Bill Belichick. Hiring Bill, doing what they're doing shows we are willing to spend the money that it takes to be a football team at that level.
We're serious.
And that, yes.
We're
and
being
so,
a serious program.
Regardless of if he fails or thrives, it shows we'll spend the money to say we're getting better.
Now, the second part of my premise and my faith in Bill Belichick has always been they will not lose a game as they did often under Mac Brown because of the coach. And I was making this point again to my Georgia fans who, Kirby Smart, they're so excited down there about all the things that happen down there. You need to drink coffee, by the way. I'm surprised to learn today that you don't drink coffee.
No.
This is stunning to me. But part of my argument is like, he's a great coach. They're not going to lose. Hey, Malcolm Butler, goal line, all this stuff, like you're not getting one over on Bill Belichick. And they had to remind me of this play, which I'll be perfectly honest with you, I forgot about. And I'm kind of sitting here regretting maybe making this part of my argument.
Mac Hollins out on defense. He's all the way back. Stevenson. Is anyone going to? That's out the 30. Flips it back. Stanford band nowhere in sight. Uh-oh. It's picked off. Uh-oh. Oh, no. Unbelievable. Oh, wow. Incredible. Chandler Jones takes it in and wins the game for the Raiders. Have you ever seen an ending like that? I've never seen anything like that. I have no idea.
I feel like normally when we see those, it's the Patriots were down 3 but covering, and that stupid play happened. We're like, obviously they had to do it because they needed to win, and you're just mad because then it blew your cover, right? No. They went from not losing the game and the ball to losing the game.
It was 24. So
it was tied.
For those who weren't watching, if you're just listening, this is the Patriots-Raiders game from Bill Belichick's last year. The tweet itself says the play that ended the Patriots dynasty and Belichick's patience for women. Then the original tweet is, what is the dumbest thing you've ever seen an NFL player do on a field? It was 24-24. They ran a draw And then the draw becomes, as Scott Van Pelt likes to say, the pitchy woo woo. Well, pitchy woo is usually when you're down. The game was tied. All they had to do was fall to the ground and go to overtime. But instead, they start the pitchy woo woo, which becomes then an interception returned for a touchdown. And as you originally saw this clip and said, what?
Pac Pro. It's hold on, Jacoby Myers, right?
So maybe, as I like to say, the gemstones. If we move the gemstones, Avengers style.
Did I hear Mac Hollins was on the field on defense there? Did I hear that at the beginning of the play?
The reason Bill Belichick is at Carolina is because a former NC State player, Jacoby Myers, performed one of the dumbest plays in NFL history.
All right, can I defend?
Is that?
Yeah.
Is that where we're?
Yes. The butterfly effect is real. Can I defend Jacoby Myers for just a second? Right now, I have no idea what was talked about in the huddle.
Clearly not a lot.
Did I kick something?
No, fine.
Our cameras look to be blinking. That's what I was worried about.
Your camera is blinking. Yes, you might have kicked something. Oh, you knocked your thing out like a ding dong.
Where?
Hold, please.
Where did this come from?
Don't worry about it. Just talk.
Okay. If they said in the huddle, keep lateraling because we're trying to win this game and not go to overtime, then that's just terrible coaching and terrible on all people's part, right? There is some element, if you're a football player and you're running down the field and a dude just pitches you a ball, I feel like your natural instinct goes back to like elementary school and you're like, whoa, hold up. We're playing again. We're playing pitchy woo woo. You know what I mean? So it's like less of his fault. I don't know.
You've got to reset your camera there. While Hayes does that, why don't we hit a couple commercials? Because we have one more segment that we have to do that does require Hayes' participation. Look at you. You're back. We just have to mute your microphone. So you're back. Butcher's Market. Hey, I've moved on from the hot dogs. I'm very proud of myself. I have now advanced to the salmon.
Okay.
Love me the salmon from the Butcher's Market.
Are you trying to get healthy?
No.
Trying to lose weight?
I just enjoy
extend your life?
Salmon. Yes, extending my life would be a bonus, but the Butcher's Market has all kinds of options as we've established, including, well, I'm allowed to say it is the home base. Lake Boone.
Yeah, you can have that one.
I can have that one. Okay. I know you get very territorial when it comes to what gets to be construed as the home base and what doesn't.
We need one ITB. We need one maybe at Seaboard Station or something. 5 points. We can take one.
I could see that. I could see that.
So Butcher's Market did me right on 4th of July. With burgers and dogs, I think 4th of July, but I was down with some friends in Pamlico County and we agreed to take one meal. And I said, this will be easy. I'll just pick up 3 packs of signature chicken.
Ooh.
This is my contention. You can't cook it wrong. You can try. I always worry about undercooking chicken.
Right.
So which means oftentimes I overcook it. It's dry. Can't do it with the Butcher's Market. And like, if you think you've undercooked it, it's perfect. If you take it a little too long, still juicy, still great. You can't do it wrong. Signature chicken. That was my meal for the 4th of July group we did this weekend. Always good.
What you can do, Roll, though, is be outside while you're cooking that chicken and be eaten alive by mosquitoes. Hit up the Mosquito Authority, Pest Authority, bugsbite.com.
Hayes in.
Lancaster is the OG.
There's only room for one Hayes. He's Hazen. Hayes in.
Bugsbite.com. They do not believe in contracts, but they do believe in saving you money. So hit them up at bugsbite.com. Get rid of those ants potentially in your kitchen. I know I came home after the drive and those ants love to be around the sink.
Not cool.
Dishwasher. So I had to hit up my friends at Mosquito Authority. Again, that's bugsbite.com. I had a life-changing experience in Tallahassee.
Okay.
I think you could as well if you go to Bloomin' Blinds. Bloomin' Blinds, give him a call. Chris, our guy, 919-980-9815. Are you a good sleeper? In general?
I'm a good napper.
I'm a much better napper than I am. I'm a terrible sleeper.
Okay.
But I'm in Tallahassee and they had the room darkening shade. And I was like, ooh. And I know it wasn't even as good as the options at Bloomin' Blinds because it wasn't automated and there was still a little bit of light at the top.
I can get annoyed by that when everything's dark, but one little crack.
Yes. But go to Bloomin' Blinds, give them a call. 919-980-9815. Improve your sleep. You say, I'm trying to get healthy, man. If I can improve my sleep, I could take over the world.
Yes.
I could be the ACC commissioner if I can improve my sleep. So check out our friends at Bloomin' Blinds. It's 919-980-9815. Okay. Now, Hayes, we are going to get into something that was supposed to be, Hey, Joe. Hey, baby, I hear the podcast calling. All right, sir.
Is this my Do You Care segment?
This is now your time, brought to you by our friends at Nature's Relief. Nature's Relief, they're in Garner. They're at Holly Ridge. They're on Western. Hit them up, your best location for not only drinks, but the magic gummies. Give them a call if you need. 919, no, that's us. Nature's Relief, the Nature's Relief hempstore.com, our friend. Big thanks to our friends at Nature's Relief.
All right, you were sending me a lot of things that we might talk on the show, and I was wondering when I might get topics that were actually sports topics.
Okay. That's not always the case. Yeah.
Yeah. But I realized like some of these might not need to hit the pod. So let's give you a couple options and you can tell me how much you do or do not care about these things. Okay. Last night, the United States lost to Mexico 2-1 in the CONCACAF final. Is it the CONCACAF Gold Cup? I don't remember.
It was the Gold Cup. Yeah.
Do you care about the United States losing in the CONCACAF finals in Mexico?
I do not. I like soccer. I enjoy soccer. International soccer in particular. I like gambling on soccer. You know this. The 90-minute rule is
love it.
One of the great
love it. No overtime.
One of the great wrinkles
of
gambling.
Here. Yes.
But here's the thing. I enjoy those international competitions. I enjoy the World Cup. Let's just be honest, right? And Europe, the one that they play there as well.
Euro, yeah.
The Euro. Yes, thank you for helping me out my vernacular. I look at, again, I describe Florida State and Clemson potentially as being the king of the dipshits. Like being the best team in CONCACAF is essentially being the king of the dipshits,
sure,
right?
Sure.
Like maybe I should care because it is the ACC of soccer, CONCACAF,
yep.
Right? Like, what does it ultimately mean? Like you could win the CONCACAF Gold Cup 100 times. That's not going to translate to your success in the World Cup, right? So I know there's a lot of hand-wringing about U.S. soccer and the coach and, you know, who's playing, who's not playing. Soccer, so I'm 50, 94 was the World Cup and the final was in New Jersey or played in one of the games played in Jersey. A lot of the games played in New Jersey. I was kind of like, oh, this is really cool. I didn't play soccer at all growing up. I never played soccer. My dad was a football coach. So I literally never played a second of rec league soccer in my life. Okay. So I came about soccer because of George Tarantini at NC State. I started writing about soccer when I was a technician. It was the first sport that I wrote about. I literally knew nothing, which is why George was so special to me because he's the one who explained everything to me. Yes. So I understood the premise of what they were trying to do in 94. You bring the World Cup, you have this professional league, you have the stars who are identifiable. I don't know what they're doing now. It's like we have the MLS, but we don't want any of our players to play in the MLS. It's like we want them to be over here, and there. And then like the national team, remember, was the Reina. Oh, we don't want to play them. And
They're still
kicked the mom. And now there's like this. They have a foreign coach now, a foreigner.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what you got to go get a good foreign coach.
Foreigner.
Yeah. That's how you got to do it.
They should have put my guy Tab Ramos as the coach when they hired Berhalter.
Oh, you mean my former coach at George Tarantini NC State soccer camp in 1986, Tab Ramos?
Yes.
Yes, he was destined for greatness then. He used to coach me there. I will say I did not care about this until it got to the final and it was USA and Mexico. I'm like, I'm going to turn on USA and Mexico because I'm like you. I need national team stakes to get me interested. I've tried to like pick an English Premier League team. It just hasn't quite happened, you know. I've even got a buddy who works over there, not at the top level, but he's in the English sporting
championship
league.
level.
And I tried to like get into his team, couldn't quite do it. But something about the national divides, and this team was also apparently they lost everything before this cup started. They were struggling through it. So it was kind of cool to be like, and then you saw Christian Pulisic and a couple other guys weren't playing in this. So the only reason it became interesting was, well, wait a minute. If they do win this, and then we're adding back our good guys, maybe there's hope to be good. Nobody thinks the U.S. has any chance of winning the World Cup. We want to get out of group stage and win one game, and that would be magical, right?
Always.
So I think we were looking for a glimpse that could happen. Maybe if we had won this and thought, well, this plus our good players. So I almost cared. I will say I even cared enough just to watch a little bit last night.
You texted me about it. I turned it on. I do like to play the game of, okay, I know nothing about the U.S. I'm like, please don't be confused right now. I know nothing about the national team.
Yep.
So when I turn something on, I like to try to identify the good players. Like, who are the conspicuous difference
Who are the
makers?
bus drivers out here? Potential future bus drivers.
Thank you.
Who's swaggering around like they drive
Thank
a
you.
bus. Yeah.
I could not come up with that. Then I was starting to get a little xenophobic and a little annoyed. The game was played in Houston.
And there were more Mexican
and
fans
there were more.
Oh, yeah.
It felt and sounded like
100%.
There were more.
The promoters of the event had no problem. They did not care about it being they wanted to sell top dollar tickets. They put it in Houston for a reason. They knew what they were doing.
And I know that they were trying to replicate the Four Nations Cup a little bit.
Yep.
Like you're getting these tensions, political tensions between Mexico and the U.S. Whatever.
All right.
So no,
so you do not care.
It was a do not care.
All right,
but not because like I hate something. I'm not just like
you don't defend
just
don't care. Yeah. All right. Next up, Wimbledon. Do you care or do you not care? Wimbledon is going on. We're halfway through a fortnight, I believe. We're like, we're a fortnight in. We're not quite a fortnight.
We're a fort.
Just not the night. Do you care? A lot of top players lost early, including Coco Gauff on the women's side. I love Coco Gauff. I need to see her for years with the best tennis players in the world. It felt like, they're going to be in the Final Four. Right?
Yes.
Like you just can't be getting upset in majors if you're going to truly vault into the elite status, right? And that's what Sabalenka's been doing on the women's side. Do you care about anything in Wimbledon? Do you care?
I do.
Okay.
Even though
outside of gambling interests?
No. Well, that's not true because we got that Sinner Alcaraz match in the French Open.
They're doing it
which
now.
Was amazing.
Yep.
And then I think we'll probably see the two of them again in the final, right?
Very possibly, but there's one other guy that's making me care about Wimbledon right now, and that is American Ben Shelton.
Okay,
he's got a winning smile. He's got kind of tennis isn't a sport of big people. It could be a sport of tall people,
right?
But rarely, and he's not.
Yeah, Rafa was a little bit of a munchkin.
Yeah.
Even Djokovic, you look at him, you're like,
yes. Shelton, maybe it's because of the people running around him. He looks like a bigger dude, and people just sort of gravitate to a bigger dude. I'm not calling him fat or out of shape by any means. He just looks a little bit bigger than your average.
Okay.
He's American. He's got a great smile. He's got a rock star girlfriend that we know, Trinity Rodman. She's recovering, but she's one of the best women's soccer players upcoming in the world.
Okay.
He's got cool viral moments. He does social media well. He was saying how his sister was a good luck charm, but now she had to go back to work. And he even name dropped her business.
I was going to say, speaking of consulting,
put Morgan Stanley on there.
Oh, what?
Yeah, he was like,
I thought it was Deloitte.
It was like she's got to go back and work for Morgan Stanley, and everybody goes boo. And then there's viral video of her like getting off the call with her employers, and Ben was like, "Are you going to be able to stay?" And she goes, "Yes." He goes, "Thanks, Morgan Stanley." So he is a budding American tennis star, and like you said, also Alcaraz and Sinner, they're doing the tennis superstar thing. They're making every Final Four in a Grand Slam like you have to, and then we get to see amazing matches in either the Final Four or the final. So Shelton has me interested on the men's side, and then Sabalenka and the winners, the center of the people, good people being good, has kept me somewhat interested. And there is an element of
Shelton playing right now. Oh, you probably missed the episode where I went in on Sinner. He's fake Italian.
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, I'll save it for another day.
There also there's an element of tennis is like nothing else in sport.
Says the guy whose mom's maiden name is O'Neill.
But playing on different surfaces is just like kind of a cool thing that you don't get in other sports.
I agree.
So there is something about that of like, oh yeah, it's crazy to be playing on grass.
Grass would be my least favorite because the service becomes ridiculous.
Yeah,
like
it's a lot of guesswork and And now there's talk that they have intentionally fluffy balls at Wimbledon.
I have heard about the ball, how it changed during the pandemic and some other stuff.
They just don't want it to become who can hit the fastest serve wins the tournament, which sometimes it can't.
I had questions about the seeding at Wimbledon. Like, I get Djokovic is getting older, but he's the 6th seed. That's some bullshit.
No.
Like, come on now. There's not 5 guys. not on that surface either. Come on.
All right. And finally, in the club, in the Do You Care about the Club World Cup? This is the best soccer clubs in the world. They put them in a tournament. Seems to be a total money grab.
No.
I'm with you.
Don't ask me why I care about Euro and I don't care about club. world
Euro
soccer. But
seems less contrived. And to me, anytime people are playing for their country, it means more, right?
plus, like, it's a chance. Our callback to our last summer's episodes. I think England, like, I will watch England do anything because they are the NC State.
Yeah.
They just have a head start on the Wolfpack.
We did have our first, this is what happens when you try and have money grabs. You get people hurt in games. So we did have our first like serious injury that will have like the club owner who pays that guy, $1 billion, whatever, is like, great. Now my guy's hurt for the reason I got him. And he's out here playing this Club World Cup, which is, again, just a glorified money grab. I also do not care about the Club World Cup, but we're down to the Final Four. So
perfect. Let's get out of here. Some comments on the StreamYard, because I like to cheat on the non-live days. We're technically live right now. We have 34 people watching, but they also have some comments in here. We've got Robert Hayes in the house. Yes. Got Ronnie. Ehlers has had a lot of bad centers on his line. Most of his tenure has been a revolving door centers. He could drive a line with a good puck retriever. Good on the boards. Excellent in transition. I don't disagree with the addition of Ehlers. I just don't think it's like this grand slam home run that some people were kind of touting. Steven, bring back Sports Channel 8, the podcast.
Yes. Yeah, actually, that's a lot of work. We want to do it, but it would be too much work. Maybe if we knew somebody else that had podcasting capabilities that we could just like crib on their setup, and
that would be weird. That'd be wild.
Please tell me you're going to really read James Blackwell saying Florida State is the cousin we accept because they are family and are the child of everyone's favorite aunt.
Sometimes I wonder if you actually worked in radio and understand the concept of stepping on.
Oh,
and ruining.
sorry. No,
Fine.
I didn't.
Fine.
That was the charm. We didn't know what we were doing on radio.
Fine. Yes, Florida State is the cousin we accept because they are family and they are the child of everyone's favorite aunt. I don't know.
No.
I don't know. Ben, both city coordinators, can you sponsor whatever the ACC is going to become in 2030? Go for the naming rights. You split those with Rialto with me, or?
Yeah, I'm down.
Okay.
Hopefully the ACC will be just a basketball league, and the football teams that we care about can be part of the Super Bowl football
Splinter
league.
off.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Or should we go the hottest summer take of all? Bring back the NC State should be our football school, and UNC should be our basketball school, and the state should quit splitting its talents.
Ooh,
that's the classic one.
Ronnie, back with more hockey. Tulski did great. Came across like a professor to me. Yes, I love it.
And he looks like a professor too.
Yeah,
plays the part perfectly.
See now, listen, Ben, I didn't bet on that particular baseball game.
Well, partly why he brings that up. We did have another betting scandal, right? You seen the pitcher that's getting investigated for 2 pitches?
No.
He came out the beginning of the second, the beginning of the third. And this is the reason that we who are gamblers are also telling you, yes, this increased level of gambling is going to create more gambling, but you're naive if you thought that nobody was ever gambling before this.
Right.
And we are catching people because of this. Well, now, if all of a sudden $2 million is bet on somebody's first pitch of the third inning, where the average of that is like $25,000. So the dude went out. His first one, I'll give it to him, was believable because he's got to pitch a ball. It means
you can bet on the first pitch ball strike.
First pitch ball strike.
Yes.
His first one was closer to the zone than one of the ones you showed me that were called strike earlier. But he's got a risk that a guy swings at it and hits a foul ball, right?
Right.
His second one that was in question,
bounce pass,
looked like a bad first pitch. It hit 40 feet on the dirt of the way to the 60 feet to the plate, and it makes it harder for him to defend. No, I was just throwing a pitch. Again, one was outside, but believable. One was like, buddy, that looked like you knew your life was in trouble if you didn't throw a ball here. So, but yes, got to watch out for that.
From Kyle. Yeah, we didn't mean to guilt you here, Kyle. As a consultant, I feel guilty for my profession. I apologize for my industry. Hey, man, no, we're just jealous that you got in there and you're making the money the right way.
Get that money.
NC State moderator, congrats, of course. Hope everything is well with the family there. NC State moderator. The Raiders were so appreciative. They signed Jacoby. Yes.
They owed him.
Yes, they did. And finally, Mike Jones. Happy Monday, Jones.
Monday,
like the right way.
Monday after a long holiday weekend is tough. I'm not I don't have tough time getting out of bed first thing in the morning.
Right.
But I've just got routines I need to do. Everyone in my house needs to go to the bathroom. 2 dogs, myself multiple times. get everything going. So it's not like
how are the dogs?
they're doing great. We're
Still one of the funniest moments
was when I talked about one
The
going through
dogs,
heat.
period. Yeah.
that we're about to fix.
You
that
lost
finally.
me. That was during pandemic.
Yeah,
it was radio pandemic, and we're telling that story, and
my dog having his period.
I literally fell on the floor of the old studio, that dark studio that we were doing.
Now we know how to handle it better. Can I give my last thing before you sign off?
Yeah.
Quick shout out. We had in North Carolina, we get a lot of storms. The reason I always over prepare for storms is because of Hurricane Fran.
Yes.
Right? I know you don't look at me and think that's an over prepare guy. I'm the weirdo who will go get batteries or whatever, because I'm like, I'll never remember that night. We went to bed, heard one was going to blow through, and next thing we didn't have power for 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
And so maybe the rest of my lifetime we'll never get one of those, but I will always over prepare for a hurricane. Even this tropical storm that came through, I was looking to make sure, like, okay, I think we'll be good, right? But I do want to give a quick shout out. Apparently in Orange County, Moore County, the Saxapahaw, Hall River, there was a lot of flooding. So hope everybody's okay there. Apparently the Hall River reached Fran levels last night. It's one of those things where, like, the storm doesn't have to be that big for it to sit in one area at the wrong time. And you had a thunderstorm a week before. Now the levels are already high. So shout out to anybody there. And then, as a former camp counselor, I know all of America has been thinking about it, but what went down in Texas, I've been texting with other camp counselor people of like, what that would be like. And
just devastating.
It's awful. And it sounds weird. And it sounds like one of those times where parents would be like, whoa, that's scary. I would never send my son to a kid to a summer camp. Like, summer camps are amazing places where amazing connections are made and you grow a lot. And I hope that no one would ever be deterred by some crazy accident. And there's a part of me, obviously, there's no silver lining or good side of 20 plus kids losing their life, plus other people in this storm. But there is an element of me that thinks there's no better community to have been with all these kids during that rescue and the tragic time and the part that'll come after it than the sort of camp community. So I know a lot of people are thinking about those things. My thoughts with the folks in Texas and here locally, anybody was affected by flooding, and watch out. It's hurricane season. Take warning seriously, and let's keep funding National Weather Service.
I know we're supposed to get some rain tomorrow, but we'll be inside. We'll be at the Two Roosters home base, Person Street. Come and see us. Come have some OG peanut butter fudge ripple. Enjoy it. 2:00.
I'm excited.
Tomorrow we're actually live.
I'm excited.
Tomorrow, as opposed to
I'll be on time.
What we did today. I have very little faith in you being on time.
Oh, come on. You tell me we're live.
2P.
Tell me we're live
tomorrow at the Two Roosters. Come hit us up and enjoy some ice cream. Thank you guys. See you tomorrow.